All right, we are live at lunch, coming at you. I think we are 61 days, 62 days before Trump. Somebody correct me. I think I lost my count, but we are almost at the 2-month mark to when Trump is taking office. So I am promising to come here live as frequently as I can during the lunch hour to do live at lunch. To let people know some action steps that they can take to begin to prepare for the coming chaos that we anticipate under the Trump administration across the board. If his cabinet picks are any indication of what is coming, the circus, you could say, it's going to be everything, not just immigration, but my specialty is in immigration, so I'll stick to what I know. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Aquí estoy para contestar preguntas, hablando de qué se puede hacer ahorita antes de que Trump toma su lugar. En enero tenemos alrededor de 60 días, casi 2 meses, entonces queremos contestar preguntas y preparar para que la gente pueda estar preparado y informado para lo que viene, el caos, creo que se dice, el que viene bajo Trump. So I'm happy to answer questions in English or Spanish. Thanks for coming in and joining. Hopefully you're having some lunch. And you can watch the show as it unfolds. Mary asks, what happened with people who are waiting to get approved for green cards and the husband as citizens? So there's been no changes yet. We do anticipate anyone who has a pending application for a green card, it's called an adjustment of status. I would expect that you're probably going to have to go to an interview, even though we haven't seen interviews for a few years now. The only change that has happened specifically so far is that right after the elections, a federal judge ended the parole in place, keeping families together, family unity program. He ended that. So that is the only major change that we've seen. Right now, everything else is processing as usual, but we're anticipating a slowdown of all applications because there'll be more focused scrutiny on the cases, requiring things that haven't been required under the Biden administration. That's what we saw under the first administration. So again, I'm basing these, some people are coming on saying like that we're lying, that we're, exaggerating. All we can do is base it on the experience that we had the first go around, and based on what he has promised for the second go around, and know that this time he has much fewer checks and balances, right? The Supreme Court has gone his way. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives have gone his way. So the whole Congress is now Republican run. And so at least for the next 2 years, he's going to have really unrestricted power to make as many changes as he wants in immigration. So I keep getting a lot of these comments, and I keep trying to check myself, like, okay, yes, it's going to be bad. How much actual damage can he do? So I want to balance it with, there are limitations, right? There's funding limitations, there's restrictions, there's logistical limitations. You're talking 11 million people, and it's very expensive to detain and provide due process, and ultimately deport each individual. And so one of the announcements that happened this week on Monday was that Trump confirmed that he intends to declare a national emergency on day one. And what does that mean exactly? So there's been a lot of talk about that. I did a video on it. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. But basically it means that he's going to have access to using the National Guard. So he says it's going to be just for the border, to secure the borders, but he'll have authority to use the National Guard throughout the U.S. and send into places where, ICE might need some more support to do things like, big scale raids. So actually I did 2 videos yesterday, like one of them asking the children of undocumented immigrants, any of them that are in the National Guard, how they feel about that. Like, how do you feel? Are we actually going to ask our service members to round up their own community members, people that they've grown up with, people that they've been raised with? What will that actually look like? And so, like I said, some people are saying that we're lying or we're exaggerating, but these are things that he's already announced he's going to do. So we need to take him at his word and plan accordingly. We're recommending people to I keep getting like a lot of, I'm not going to give any attention to people that come on here and say stupid stuff. Immigrants have made America great. I'm very passionate about that. I preach that. I have a hashtag, immigrants make America great. Our country was founded by immigrants, has been made strong by the contributions of immigrants. No one here, unless you're 100% native blood, you are an immigrant. You are not from here. This is not your native home. So a country that has been founded by immigrants, so much so that we don't even have an official language. People like to declare that like, you're here in America, speak English. Like, that's not our official language. We don't have an official language. This was intended to be a place of safety and a refuge for immigrants from around the world. And so, yeah, so I get a little fired up when I see people that say that people who don't have status need to go home. I'm sorry, but this is home for many, many people, for many kids who were brought here, younger than 5 years old. This is home. They've gone to school here. They now have families, and they've been working under the DACA program. And these are some of the individuals that Trump wants to mass deport. People claiming that undocumented people are draining the system. I think there's going to be a real wake-up call when people understand the impact, the financial, the economic impact that immigrants play on, all these people are talking about stocking up. You better start prepping, because there's going to be issues with supply chain again, because you're removing a major part of the agricultural infrastructure, construction, like all of the work that we expect immigrants to do that no one else really wants to do, at least not for the wage that they're being paid. We're all going to see the impact, and immigrants, whether they're documented or undocumented, they pay into the tax system, they pay into the Social Security system. So I'm very, very curious to see these people that are shouting for mass deportations and saying that people don't belong here, they shouldn't be here, how that's going to impact their grocery store visit. The very same thing that people supposedly voted Trump into office for. But I digress. Okay, let's get to some questions here. Fikr, your mom is here. She came for a visit. I'd like to apply for a work permit and green card for her. What is the process? So Fikr, if you're a U.S. citizen, I'm going to assume, and she's decided that she wants to make this home, maybe she didn't have that intention when she came here, but you should talk with an immigration attorney and see what the options are to go ahead and file for a green card for your mom. That is one of the rights currently of U.S. citizens, is that they can apply for their parents to come, and that process is pretty quick. That is one of the things that Trump has said he wants to consider taking away, and just make it so that U.S. citizens can only apply for nuclear family members, which would be like spouse and children. So I would definitely take advantage of that before that comes under attack. What the process is for that is that you're going to want to call an immigration attorney, whether that's us or someone else. You're not going to want to do these things on your own. They're going to be much stricter scrutiny in the new year, and there's all kinds of pitfalls that you can and will fall into. Press, you're wanting to know if we do mandamus. We don't currently have the capacity to do that. I know there are a lot of immigration attorneys who do, so please keep looking for that. Mandamus is if your case has been ongoing, pending for too long, and you've been actively trying to get the agency, USCIS, to take action on your case, and they're refusing to do it. You sue them, and you make them take action on it. Shroom Mesex, do you think people should get married now? I think there's going to be a lot of people getting married around the holidays for different reasons, right? Could be maybe same-sex marriage, because that could potentially come under attack. It could be for immigration purposes. I definitely think there's going to be a rise in marriages. Just a plug here that our office offers this. Our office offers this as part of a free part of our cases that we do for applications that are based on marriage. If you're not currently married and you want to do a quickie wedding, we can get that done in our office. We love to do that for our clients. Sorry, Pradeep, we don't do much employment-based application, so make sure you talk with an immigration attorney. They can talk with you about the EB-2. You sound like someone we definitely want in our country on our side. Master in physics, 2 years teaching experience. Definitely not my area of expertise. AZ, you're an asylee from Afghanistan. Thank you for all of your contributions here in America. You applied for your spouse since 4 months ago. How long will this I-730 take? These are taking a long time, unfortunately, because there's a lot of people still trying to get out of Afghanistan. I don't even know like how many years now. I think it's what, like 4 or 5 years that since we pulled out of Afghanistan, and it all got super, super messy, and people are still trying to get out of there. Cursed potato, all immigrants make America great. Thank you so much for your support. So anyways, the I-730 is for the spouse of someone who's approved for asylum. I would expect that to probably take like a year and a half. But if you have a basis to do an expedite request, you can do that and get the congressional office involved. We had to do that on our most recent one. Mary, mass deportation will be included. People, those papers who are pending, I hope not. But that's basically what the Trump administration said to anyone who had a pending case the first time around, was that that's great. You can go wait in your home country and come back when it's approved. So some of these cases that have very long waiting times due to numerical limitations set by Congress, those people potentially could be required to leave and wait until they're allowed to come back. Lady says 12 million immigrants being taken out. I think the numbers are not real clear. Some people are saying 11, some people are saying 18 million. Lady, I said I wasn't going to give you space, but why can't you wait? What is it that you're so excited about? Is it that you're excited about the fact that America will be a little bit whiter? Because you know that there are white undocumented immigrants too, right? They're just harder to recognize because they look white. So I'm just so curious, people that are so excited about mass deportation just have not thought through, or maybe can't comprehend, maybe don't have the intellectual ability to comprehend the mass chaos that will ensue, not just in our labor force, but also in financial contributions to all of our government agencies and welfare and all of the things. I'd love to hear your articulate argument, lady, why you can't wait. Okay, I promised I would not give air to these people, but it just gets me so triggered much. Yes, I am triggered. I am super triggered. No, Trump doesn't live rent-free in my head. I sleep well at night. Hopefully you will sleep well at night. Okay, who is going to ask me some legitimate questions here? Are you dull? Just joined. I want to ask that of lady. Are you dull? Just joined. If they start denaturalizing, what happens to kids with one U.S. parent, one immigrant? So the denaturalization, I just heard some statistics the other day. One of our associates went to an immigration conference and they were talking about this, some fear around this. This is something that is actually, possible according to the laws. Immigration can reopen a case that they gave citizenship to someone if they suspect that there's been fraud or some basis like why they shouldn't have been approved. And historically, it's been like 11 cases a year that they investigate. I guess there was like 1,100 over the 4 years that Trump was in office, and Stephen Miller was behind that. He's promising to ramp that back up. So I don't think, I'm not too worried about that one, and unless people have so this is the way you see it come up sometimes, is if there was some sort of mistake that was made, possibly whether it was on purpose fraud or accidental fraud, any kind of error in the process, they can say that that was fraud, and they can use that as a basis to try to take away the citizenship. There are waivers in place, so once you get through that whole process, it's a long legal process. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. What I'm more concerned is about these mixed status families where one is a U.S. citizen, the other one is undocumented, and the U.S. citizen kids, if that parent gets picked up, Tom Homan, who will be the new border czar, he was previously director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I just saw a video last week. He was like, oh, we don't need to worry about separating the families. They can just go together. Actually, he was encouraging people to just leave now so they don't have to deal with the separation. So that's my concern, is like what the decisions that families are going to have to make. And maybe that is a decision. Maybe immigrants are like fed up with it. They're like, forget it. Like, you guys don't appreciate us at all. Like, why are we here? And decide to leave. Like, the fear and the psychological terror, the warfare that they're going to be inflicting on immigrants, their families, and people who serve immigrants, it's for a reason. It's for us to just give up. It's for us to say, okay, I'm out of here. So, maybe that will happen. And that is an option. That's a choice. I'm not going to, cast any shade on anybody who chooses to do that, but we want people to be informed what their options are, what the likelihood is of this, so that people can make informed decisions. Farming in New York City, good luck with that. You're welcome, Denise. I like informing people. People need to be informed. I think some people are just ignorant because they don't know. And that's not a bad word. That's not saying they're stupid. I think people are very intelligent, and but they are limited in their experience. Usually these are people who haven't traveled much out of their community or their state. These are usually people who, feel like they need to blame their situation on someone else. So immigrants have always been the scapegoat. Like, throughout our history, it's always been, first it was, the Italians, the Irish, the Polish, the Chinese, the Japanese. Like, now our focus is on Central and South America. And so the browner you are right now, the more you're likely to be caught up on any of these actions that they're going to be taking. Disculpe que estoy hablando todo en inglés. Si tienen preguntas en español, me las puede hacer y voy a contestar. Zafar, you're in administrative processing after the interview. I'm sorry. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Usually it takes about 4 to 6 months to get out of admin processing. I'm not sure, McGee's, what you're saying about your immigrant visa got approved, and it says advanced parole. Should definitely have your attorney look into that. Hopefully have an attorney. If not, you should be hiring one. So again, the denaturalization, that's really only something you should be concerned about if, for example, like I've seen some situations where someone was applying through their parent and they were supposed to do it while they were single, but they got married and they didn't disclose that, or they didn't know they were supposed to disclose that. And so that they technically shouldn't have been approved to begin with. So if you have any kind of questionable anything in your past, in your immigration processing, you should be talking to an immigration attorney about that. Dire consequences, yes, indeed. Henry, Senor, can I proceed with consular processing if I've not accrued more than 180 days without status? Possibly. You're going to want to get an attorney to look at that, all of your entries and exits, all of the ways that you entered. It's possible that you won't need to have a waiver if you have less than 180 days accrued, but there's different ways to accrue it and to count it. So make sure you're talking with an immigration attorney about that. Smokey the Pit, you're trying to do an advanced parole quickly. You're nervous about the time. Yeah, we're also nervous about what's going to happen to advanced parole and to DACA. So we're just recommending people do it as quickly as they can. Hopefully it'll get approved, and then you can do your adjustment once you have your comeback on the advanced parole. I think people who want to argue about the laws should go to law school first. That's what I think. Someone else was pointing out that, yeah, the denaturalization is only for, people, only people who should be concerned about that are people who've committed fraud, but sometimes you don't know you've committed fraud. So meanwhile, there's going to be basically these witch hunts opening things up that may or may not have fraud, inflicting the stress, unnecessary stress on people. It's, it takes years to go through the court system. I don't think it's a good use of taxpayer dollars. And especially because, all these people also in my comments are like, no, he said he's just going to deport the criminals, the murderers. And I'm like, so you're telling me that police hasn't done their job? Because this is the way it works, right? Somebody commits a crime, the police arrest them, they have their, due process in the court, whatever the charges are. And then usually along that way, immigration catches wind of their situation. And then after they finish their case, they're promptly deported. So people who think that there are like millions of criminal, undocumented individuals running around just don't understand how the system works. And really, if they think that, their complaint should really be with the police. The police aren't doing their job then if they're letting people just wander around communities committing crimes. Those are totally separate issues. Jax, I'm sorry to hear you got your 601A denied, or maybe you're worried about the 601A denied. I did want to give good news around the 601A. We've had 2 of these waivers approved in the last 2 months, and one of them took about 3 years. This last one took 2 years. They were taking like 4 or 5 years, so that indicates to us that they're definitely speeding these up, which is great because so many people have sued them. Talking about mandamus, somebody was asking about that. We've been suing the government to get some action on these cases. People cannot get their green card until they get this waiver approved. And so they're waiting years. They can't even get a work permit or have any kind of legal status until they get the 601A approved, leave the country, go to the consular interview, and then come back with their permanent residency status. MC 8315, your ex-wife filed a petition for her brother in 2000. Now he's learned that she retracted that petition. Oh, sounds like they have some drama. I'm not sure how that impacts you, but yes, you can withdraw a petition. And just because you have something filed doesn't mean that you're not going to need continued cooperation from that person. I've had clients that like get in fights with their family members and like they don't want to cooperate anymore, so they can't continue their application, or family members that pass away. Sometimes there's things that you can do still, but many times there's just nothing that can be done due to these long backlogs, 20, 25 years that people are waiting. The older you get, obviously the more likely it is that your life will not continue alive on this side. I don't know why I'm so triggered today, but Daryl, I'm just going to respond to this. How many have I let live in my house? I've actually let several live in my house. So thank you. How many people in your community have you reached out to and let live with you? But the truth is, most of them are very hardworking and do not need assistance like most U.S. citizens require. So I'm not sure. Talk the talk, walk the walk. Yeah, definitely. And if we're back to like civil rights era and the Underground Railroad, like I'm prepared to participate in that as well. And I hope anyone who's listening understands that that's where we're heading. Like if it becomes, if they start prosecuting individuals for supporting undocumented citizens and supporting the rights that they have, what are we willing to do? How far are we willing to go to say that we do support immigrants? We had a great outpouring right after the elections, but I want to see how that continues ongoing when it really does get difficult. How are we showing our support? Man, so many haters today, you guys. This is why I've taken up yoga. We need to all just do a collective breath. Victoria, you've had your resident card. It expired 3 years ago. In order to apply for citizenship, if you're eligible, you need to first renew your green card. So you can file them together. You don't have to wait till the green card's approved, but you do have to file. If you're within 6 months of an expiration of the green card, you have to renew it before you can file for your citizenship. Please do that immediately for your safety, also so that you can vote in the next elections. A money order, a blank money order to USCIS without the signature, I believe it has to be signed in order to be valid. So they'll probably reject the petition, send it back to you for failure to make payment. We don't, Armand, we don't have any travel bans yet. Trump did impose a Muslim travel ban that was eventually struck down by the courts, but I don't think we have a reason to do that now, but I could see, and I think he has said that he's going to do another Muslim ban. What about our local store owners that are Palestinian and Lebanese? You're worried for them. Reach out to them. Let them know that you're an ally. Let them know that you don't support the incoming administration and that whatever they need from you for support, they can count on you. Mom of girls. See, it's all about the moms. We're the ones that are going to save the world. How far back are they going to go in denaturalizing citizens? I don't know. I don't understand why this would even be a priority to them. But it is. So Monique, the big question is like, who's going to be a priority? Under Biden, the Biden administration, the government, attorneys, the immigration, ICE, they all have discretion to choose. Should we go after people who are alleged terrorists and convicted felons, or should we go after the single mother who is just trying to provide for her 3 young kids? Under Trump, those priorities were taken away because prior to Trump, there was the same priorities. But under the first administration, we saw that there was definitely a shift and actually a memo that went out and said, these are our new priorities. And so we've been asking, like, what are the new priorities going to be under Trump 2.0? And a lot of my critics say, oh, it's just going to be criminal immigrants. And my response is, you clearly don't understand that those people are either already detained or they are deported. So I don't understand, how he's going to effectuate a mass deportation with, a small number. This is where facts come in handy. And I'm going to try to pull some numbers because when you compare, because people who are anti-immigrant, they like to pull these numbers out of context. But when you compare the level of crime in the immigrant community versus the level of crime in the U.S. citizen community, there really is no comparison. It is a very small percentage that are actually from the immigrant community. So I'll get some numbers. I'll show my receipts. But this is information that gets pulled out of context, and they're like, look, all of these drunk drivers that are from other countries that are here undocumented. This is why our country is going to hell. Like, we need to get rid of them. Those are the talking points, but it's information that is completely taken out of context. And when compared to the number of U.S. citizen drunk drivers killing people, like, it doesn't make sense. So I'd like somebody to make it make sense to me, number one. And I can't remember where I was going with that line of thought. But anyways, priority. So who's a priority for deportation? And so critics have been saying, like, no, it's just going to be criminal immigrants. Well, there's not that many. And they're already dealing with those. So, Trump, he likes bigger and better, right? He's going to want to be able to show these numbers. His numbers were actually for deportations were lower than Obama. So he's going to want to figure out a way to amp those up. And what I think is going to happen from what I've heard of his talking points, his rallies, is he goes not after undocumented, but he goes after people who have status, who are here legally, people that have like a temporary protected status that from countries where they can't return to. You know, people like in Springfield, Ohio, the Haitians that are apparently eating the cats and the dogs. Let's send them back, even though Springfield, Ohio is like, no, these people are doing jobs that we need them to do. They are contributing to the economy in ways that are very helpful to us. So priorities, that's what we're talking about, who's going to be a priority. And I think that at the end of the day, he's going to go after the most vulnerable. He's going to go after the easiest ones to find. Those are going to be people like dreamers who have DACA, who have given their addresses, who are required to inform immigration every time they move. So people with temporary protected status, same thing. They have to renew every few years. They have to keep their address updated. So I think that the priorities are going to shift to people that they can easily gather and remove and add up to numbers that are big, huge. I think that's a word he would use. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. I was really rambling about priorities. Chris, your attorney told you that stay with parole in place is stopped. So what happened with parole in place is that Biden announced it in June, went through the process to make it official, and it started August 19th. It ran for a total of 5 days. In those 5 days, they actually had approvals, which was incredible. And then by the end of the week, states who had already threatened to sue the program did so. A stay was put on it, which just means like a pause on the program. And then right after the elections, or on the day of the elections, the 5th, the judge heard oral arguments and received evidence in order to make his decision. 2 days later, after the election results were announced, he announced that program is not legal. I still haven't read that decision, so I don't know, but I'm concerned. What concerns us about that decision is that if that parole in place is illegal, then, you know, what about the other parole in place programs, like for parents and spouses of military personnel? Trump tried to end that program the first time around. And, you know, now they have this case that they can use to try to end those programs too. Gracias todos que están escuchando. Lisette, sí, estamos creciendo, estamos buscando personas. Gracias por mandarnos el resumen. Danos gracia y paciencia, por favor, porque estamos teniendo que revisar bastantes aplicaciones. También Bobby, gracias. It's going to take us a while, Bobby. We got like more than 400 applications, resumes. If you saw my video last week, I really didn't make that. I made that video just as a general announcement that we're hiring. Like, we were looking probably maybe 2 or 3 positions, and the response was overwhelming. So I have one person. Part of her job is to review those resumes. It's going to take us a while, but we do hope to add at least 3 or 4 before the end of the year, and then many in the new year. We're currently at 16, and we'll double by the time, or more than double by this time next year. So please be patient with us if you send in your resume. Armand, if the travel ban is imposed again, how will it affect green card holders? I don't think it did the first time around. I don't know. I don't work with a lot of Muslim clients, so I didn't follow it super closely. Okay, en español, mi esposo pidió a su hermano. Oh, ya habíamos platicado de eso. What about misrepresentation on a file, having a green card through marriage for the last 20 years? Yeah, make sure you're talking with an attorney to do that, to make sure that you know what your options are. There are waivers available for misrepresentation. So their plan is just to pick people up. We don't know. We know what they're talking about. We know that he announced on Monday that he intends to declare a national emergency. That's so that he can access federal funding that should not be used for immigration. It's so that he can access the National Guard, which also should not be used against its own people in the interior, but that's his plan. We know that there's limited detention spaces, but also those detention centers have plans to create like camps, basically concentration camps. So I think that they have the framework. They have Project 2025. That's their blueprint. He's talked about using the Alien Enemies Act, which is supposed to be only used during wartime. So that's interesting that he's going to use it during non-wartime. But that would allow him to avoid all of the due process requirements, which means like basically you got to give people a day in court. He could just jump over those and just deport people without due process. So I don't know exactly what their plan is, but I'm taking seriously his promise to deport the masses. And I think that anyone who cares about their neighbors, the economy, their pocketbook, like any of that also should be concerned. Henry, you have a 601A pending since 2020. Yeah, you're probably going to get a request for evidence on that. We're seeing approvals out of 2022, but definitely they were taking, a lot of ours were taking like 4 to 5 years to process. Okay, I'm gonna have to jump off here in a minute. Sorry guys, I didn't get a lot of time to be on here. Adrian, I feel like you keep coming on here to ask about the special immigrant juvenile process. Hopefully you're talking with an attorney if you think that you might qualify. This is an option in Oregon. It's up to the age of 21. Many other states as well, Washington, California, Mississippi, New York, to name just a few. But all the other states, a lot of the other states are only up to the age of 18. It's a great way to get a green card pretty easily if you can show that one of your parents abused, abandoned, or neglected you, and that it's not in your best interest to return back to your country. So it is a complicated process. You're going to need to hire an attorney for it. You actually need someone in the state where you live for that. Most immigration you can hire wherever, but that case type starts in the local family court or the state court. So make sure you reach out to an immigration attorney near you. Nikki, you're welcome. I love your blue butterfly. That's our new logo is a purple butterfly. I love it. Mixed status family here. If we do a voluntary evacuation, how can I adjust status for your husband? So if you leave, there's a way to process once you're outside the country. It's going to be a lot longer because you're going to need a waiver. You can't adjust status unless you're in the U.S. So once you leave, you're probably going to trigger some bars for your re-entry, but there is a way. This is why I'm asking people to talk with an immigration attorney now, know what your options are, be able to make a plan. You might be safe for the next 4 years. We don't know. It might just all be a bunch of bullshit. We don't know. But if it is real, then we need to be ready for it. I'm actually trying to figure out how we can do some either virtual, probably not in-person town halls, but some virtual events so that people can understand what some options are, what their rights are, what some reactions should be. If this happens, what you should do then. So Nasim, no, people aren't just able to fly to their country and fix things and come back. That is a myth. It's not based in fact, and it's a really harsh reality for many immigrants and their families. Oh, this was one thing that was really interesting to me that I heard this week was that Trump is talking about focusing actually on Chinese undocumented immigrants, and specifically this comment about the military aged men, sending military-age men back to China, which makes me wonder, like, we already know that he's connected with, what's the guy's name over there, that they're like BFFs, right? So maybe there's some kind of agreement where China's like, send me all the guys back because we're going to start World War III. And Trump's like, cool, I'll do that. Jackie. Yeah, so I'm looking at doing some remote events for people to come in and anonymously, because yeah, even in our local community, we're a small community, but we've done in-person events in the past, but I don't feel safe doing them now. Our city is clearly turning. I'm in a blue state, but our city is clearly shown that it's turning a red city, if not already. So I would not feel comfortable bringing undocumented immigrants into a meeting place. Why don't I just leave with them? Maybe I will, MC. I mean, honestly, it feels like half the country, like, does half the country really hate immigrants and half of the country loves immigrants? Like, where do we stand on this? Like, I'd like to see the numbers, because actually, I also heard this week that the numbers are showing that Trump did not win the popular vote. So that makes me feel a little better. And also makes me angry with the Electoral College too. Okay. All right, guys, I got to jump off. I got some client calls to make. Please make sure you're talking with an immigration attorney, whether that's us or someone else that you know and trust, and that you're making informed decisions. Do not wait until the last minute and start making knee-jerk decisions based on fear. That is the worst way to make decisions. Make a plan, stick to your plan, and execute your plan. That's my advice. Take it or leave it. And I just want to end by saying that immigrants make America great. They truly do. And we are going to keep fighting, fight for the rights of immigrants. So thank you for all that came in. Oh, I got one comment here. Have a great day, Jose and Tammy Alcazar. Thanks for watching in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I might have some special guests. I'm having lunch with 2 immigration attorneys tomorrow. So if we can make it work, we'll come live and answer. You'll get 3 for the price of 1. We're trying to stick together here. We have to support each other through the next 4 years. So anyways, thanks you guys, and I'll see you later.